Yelan is one of the most versatile characters available in Genshin Impact. Her adaptability makes her a fantastic choice for various team comps. And in this video, I'll present 26 team comps featuring Yelan. Whether you're aiming for reaction-based synergy or exploring classic setups, we've got you covered. Let's kick things off with a look at some classic team configurations. Number 1, Yelan, Raiden Shogun, Xiangling, and Bennett. Known as the International Team, this team comp has earned a reputation as one of the most impressive setups, with Yelan replacing Xingqiu. For this team, Raiden assumes the role of your primary DPS while Yelan and Xiangling act as sub-DPS characters, focusing on their elemental bursts to unleash substantial damage. Bennett takes on the dual role of healer and buffer, amplifying Raiden and Xiangling's offensive capabilities. This lineup intuitively triggers reactions like Vaporize, Electro-Charged, and Overload without too much conscious effort on your part. You can use Ye Miko or Kuching as the main DPS, but remember that it will slightly alter the playstyle. You can also use Bidu as the F2P friendly option for your main attacker. Bennett is the recommended healer, so you can enable the Pyro Resonance, but using Jean, Sayu, or Kokomi will also work. Number 2. Yelan, Rosaria, Xiangling, and Sayu. This team capitalizes on the melt and reverse melt elemental reactions, leveraging Rosaria and Xiangling's elemental bursts with no internal cooldown. Meanwhile, Yelan contributes as an off-field DPS while also introducing the possibility of freeze and vaporize reactions to the team's arsenal. Using Sayu or Jean as the healer is recommended so you can shred your opponent's elemental resistance, but Kokomi will also work. Number 3. Yelan, Yoimiya, Fischl, and Diona. This all-bow team comp is pretty fun, with lots of elemental reactions you can trigger. Your main DPS would be Yoimiya, consistently triggering forward or reverse vaporize during Yelan's burst. She also has a pretty fast attack speed, making her a good partner for a C6 Fischl. Diona's presence introduces the potential for superconduct and freeze, creating opportunities for Yoimiya to execute melt reactions. Diona's 6th constellation shines here, providing 200 elemental mastery boost to the active character and enhancing elemental reaction damage. Alternatively, you can use Yanfei or D-Luck as your main DPS. Raiden, Shogun, Yae Miko, or Beidou can be a good substitute for Fischl. You can also replace Diona with Bennett for the healer to activate elemental resonance. Alternatively, Sayu or Jean can be utilized to reduce the enemy's elemental resistance. Or go with Kokomi and Chi-Chi equipped with the ocean-hued clam. Number 4. Yelan, Kokomi, Xingqiu, and Kazuha. In this team, Kokomi will serve as your main DPS and healer. Yelan and Xingqiu complement this setup by delivering substantial off-field DPS during the span of their elemental bursts. And Kazuha will provide elemental shred to increase the damage of all your characters even more. Although you may run into trouble with some monsters in the Spiral Abyss, you will never run into energy issues in a mono Hydra team. Alternatively, you can use Lynette, Venti, and Anemo Traveler to fill up Kazuha's role. Sucrose can also work pretty well as the main DPS, while also providing elemental resistance debuff to enemies. Number 5. Yelan, Ayato, Yunjin, and Zhongli. Yelan and Ayato work pretty well together, maximizing the 1-second procs of Yelan's exquisite throw. On the other hand, Yunjin can improve Ayato's normal attack damage and attack speed even more at Constellation 6. Combining Yelan with Zhongli will activate the Geo Resonance and Elemental Resistance Shred for further damage. Alternatively, you can use Candace to replace Yunjin and use either Sayu or Jean for your healer slot and still get Elemental Resistance debuff on enemies. Number 6. Yelan, Hu Tao, Xingqiu, and Zhongli. Yelan and Xingqiu fit really well with Hu Tao's playstyle of spamming charged attack. This team comp ensures that Hu Tao can consistently unleash reverse vaporize reactions And both Yelan and Xingqiu play pivotal roles by supplying off-field damage, hydro application, and the occasional forward vaporize reactions. Xingqiu and Yelan also serve as batteries for each other. Zhongli can provide a shield or heal if you have him at Constellation 6. But his most important contribution is decreasing the elemental resistance of opponents in the field. Alternatively, you can replace Zhongli with Sayu, Jean, Bennett, or Kokomi as healers for Abyss floors with Decay. You can also use Yoimiya, Yanfei, or D. Luke as your main DPS for this team. If you're getting value from this video so far, please leave it a like to help out the channel. I appreciate it a lot. Number 7. Yelan, Yoimiya, Kazuha, and Kokomi. This setup centers around Yoimiya as the primary attacker, but it can also work with Yanfei or Huto as the main DPS. With this team, you will have no problems triggering Vaporize and reverse Vaporize reactions. Kazuha is a vital inclusion, offering not only continuous elemental resistance reduction for enemies, but also additional elemental applications through Swirl when needed. If you don't have Kazuha, you can use Sucrose, Venti, Lynette, or Anemo Traveler. Bennett, Sayu, or Jean can also be viable healers. But energy generation may pose challenges if Yelan's energy recharge isn't sufficient. Number 8. Yelan, Xiangling, Kazuha, and Bennett. Also known as the National Team, this team comp is one of the favorites of many players, and we just replaced Xingqiu with Yelan. It focuses more on elemental reaction damage rather than relying on a hyper carry. This team is recommended to be used as is, but Sucrose or Venti would be a great replacement for Kazuha if you need some alternative. For the healer slot, you can replace Bennett with either Kokomi, Sayu, and Jean. Number 9. Yelan, Child, Xiangling, and Sayu. Child, on his own, can put a lot of hydro on enemies, and using Yelan on top of that can feel like a little too much hydro application. But hear me out on this. Yelan's 4th Ascension passive can gradually increase your active character's damage by up to 50% the longer they remain on the field. Incidentally, Child is the type of character who you'd want to keep active on the field for a long while before switching out. That alone makes Yelan and Child a good team. Couple that with Xiangling, who can proc Vaporize continuously during her elemental skill, or burst duration, and you got yourself a pretty good Vape Team. Employing a healer like Sayu or Jean adds an extra layer of damage boost by reducing the opponent's elemental resistances if you have them equipped with the Viridescent Venerer. Alternatively, you can use Bennett as your healer, buffing everyone's damage except for Yelan. Using Ayato as the main DPS can also work. Number 10. Yelan, Ayaka, Shenhe, and Kokomi. If you love perma-freezing monster, then look no further than this team comp. Shenhe buffs up Ayaka's damage as a support, while Yelan and Kokomi provide constant hydro application off-field. What's more is that your energy generation with this team is pretty good, allowing you to use elemental bursts consistently. Number 11. Yelan, Rosaria, Layla, and Sayu. This team comp is a slightly modified version of the previous team, but a little more F2P friendly, utilizing mostly 4-star characters. Rosaria will be this team's main DPS and spend the most time in the field. Layla will serve as Rosaria's battery, while Yelan works as an enabler of the freeze reaction. Sayu, on the other hand, will help with hydro application while also increasing the overall DPS of the team through elemental resistance debuff when equipped with the Viridescent Venerer. Admittedly, this isn't the hardest hitting team, but it's fun to play nonetheless. Number 12. Yelan, Ayaka, Kazuha, and Diona. This team centers on Ayaka as the main DPS with Rosaria as an alternate option. Having an Anemo character is integral for this team, so you can increase Ayaka and Yelan's damage through Elemental Shred. If you don't have Kazuha, consider Lynette, Venti, Sucrose, or Anemo Traveler. Diona's shield and healing capability while also acting as Ayaka's battery is also a big help here. But Mika and Chi-Chi can be viable healer options as well. However, it may be a little difficult to cast Yelan's burst, considering she's the only Hydro character for this team. So ensure that you have a high enough energy recharge stat for Yelan if you want to use this team effectively. Check out our Yelan build video to get our suggested artifacts, stats, and weapons for Yelan. Number 13, Yelan, Ayato, Ayaka, and Bennett. Not gonna lie, these Kamisato siblings are OP when used together. Their elemental bursts work so well together that they can obliterate the monsters in the Spiral Abyss with just that. Yelan enhances this setup by providing off-field damage and boosting the damage of your active character over time. Bennett is an excellent complement to amplify the siblings' damage. Though his burst won't provide a boost to Yelan, Mika presents an alternative option to Bennett, offering an attack speed buff for Ayato and contributing to energy generation for Ayaka. However, Mika works best with a physical team, so using Chi-Chi with the ocean-hued clam or Diona is also an excellent alternative if you need to use her in a different team. Sayu also works really well as a healer, but you can also use other Anemo characters if you're not challenging the Spiral Abyss. You can also replace Ayaka with a C4 Layla to further buff up Ayato's elemental skill, making Ayato the hyper carry of this team. Shenhe or Rosaria as Ayaka's replacement will also work great. Number 14, Yelan, Yae Miko, Raiden Shogun, and Kokomi. This is one of the hardest hitting Taser teams you can build with Yelan. The synergy is excellent as each character can provide off-field elemental damage while also acting as a battery for each other. For this team, Yae Miko will spend the most time in the field as the main DPS. But once you get Raiden's burst, you can have her stay on the field for the duration of her elemental burst. Alternatively, you can use Kuching or Sinnoh as your main DPS replacing Yae Miko. Or replace Raiden with some good off-field sub-DPS characters like Fischl or Beidou. Kokomi is pretty important for this team, so you can get some elemental particles for Yelan, but Sayu or Jean can also work. Number 15, Yelan, Sinnoh, Kazuha, and Kuki Shinobu. Sinnoh plays as the main DPS providing tons of damage, while also applying Electro on enemies. Yelan provides off-field damage and boosts Sinnoh via her passive talent. Kazuha adds crowd control and offers Elemental Shred or EM boost at Constellation 2. Shinobu functions well as a healer and maintains continuous Electro-Charged reactions. You can replace Sinnoh with a good Electro main DPS like Kuching, Yae Miko, or Raiden. Kazuha alternatives include Lynette, Sucrose, Venti, or the Anemo Traveler. Number 16, Yelan, Ayato, Fischl, and Kuki Shinobu. If you're looking for a Taser team with a Hydro main DPS, this is the way to go. Ayato and Fischl at Constellation 6 work exceptionally well, giving Oz extra hits to bypass ICD. This synergy is amplified further with Yelan's off-field Hydro application, allowing you to trigger Electro-Charged fairly consistently. For the healer slot, Shinobu is preferable, but Dori, Sayu, or Jean can also work. You can also replace Ayato with Child, Xingqiu, or Nilou, but you're better off playing Nilou in a Bloom team for her bountiful core effects. Beidou, Raiden Shogun, or Yae Miko are excellent alternatives for your Electro sub-DPS slot. Number 17, Yelan, Wanderer, Raiden Shogun, and Kuki Shinobu. If you want a slightly different approach with the Taser team, try using an Anemo character as your main DPS. Wanderer is an excellent choice, but Hizu or Sucrose can also work. For your Electro sub-DPS role, characters like Fischl, Beidou, and Yae Miko offer compelling alternatives to Raiden Shogun. Kuki, Shinobu, and Dori will work well as your healer, but using Sayu or Jean is a good idea too, as they can serve as a battery for your Anemo main DPS. Number 18, Yelan, Eula, Raiden Shogun, and Bennett. If you're building a physical team, Yelan's Fourth Ascension passive can boost your physical carry's damage. You can choose Eula or Fremine as a F2P friendly option for your main DPS. Raiden or Fischl are crucial additions to enable easy superconduct reactions. But Beidou, Yae Miko, and the Electro-Traveler are also viable choices. Bennett is optimal for the healer slot, but Mika, Diona, Chi-Chi, Shinobu, or Kokomi can also fulfill this role effectively. Number 19. Yelan, Razor, Fischl, and Mika. Razor is a classic F2P choice for a physical team's main DPS. He's the character you want to keep active on the field for extended periods, making Yelan's 4th Ascension passive a valuable asset. Fischl enhances Razor's elemental burst uptime through the Electro Resonance and synergizes effectively with Yelan to generate periodic Electro-Charged reactions. Beidou or the Electro-Traveler are viable alternatives, but using cryo characters like Layla, Kaya, or Shenhe is also a good option. The superconduct reaction plays a pivotal role in bolstering physical damage. Mika fulfills the cryo application requirement while serving as a valuable team healer. Unlocking his Constellation 6 grants physical crit damage and up to a 25% attack speed boost depending on the talent level. Alternatively, you can opt for another cryo character in the sub-DPS slot and use healers like Bennett or Kuki Shinobu. Chi-Chi could also work with the Ocean-Hued Clam artifact. Number 20. Yelan, Wanderer, Faruzan, and Zhongli. Like a physical main DPS team, Yelan's 4th Ascension passive can bolster an Anemo main DPS setup. For your main DPS slot, Wanderer is currently your best bet, but using Xiao or Hizu can be pretty fun too. Just make sure you are using one normal attack every time you do a plunge attack with Xiao. Faruzan proves invaluable as a sub-DPS thanks to her Anemo resistance reduction effect. Alternatively, you can use Lynette, Sucrose, Venti, Zhongli, or Kazuha as a replacement for Faruzan. At Constellation 4, Jean becomes an excellent choice for healing, notably due to her additional Anemo resistance reduction. But Bennett, Zhongli, or Sayu would be a great alternative if you don't have her Constellation. Number 21. Yelan, Noelle, Guru, and Zhongli. Noelle is highly valuable in this team setup, serving as the healer and main DPS, allowing you to clear Spiral Abyss, even with the Decay floor. She will spend a lot of time active on the field, benefiting damage boost from Yelan's passive talent. Guru's kit is also essential for this team due to his damage boosting buffs, especially at Constellation 6. On the other hand, Zhongli offers a reduction in geo-resistance through the hold option of his elemental skill. Alternatively, you can use Albedo, Geo-Traveler, or Ningguang as replacements for your sub-DPS. Unfortunately, Yelan doesn't play well with Ito because his kit is focused on charged attacks. However, he can still benefit from Yelan's damage boost if you don't mind her burst not activating constantly. Number 22. Yelan, Alhaitham, Nilou, and Baizhu. This team focuses on the Alhaitham and Nilou combo, producing bountiful cores, which have larger AoE and explode quicker than regular Dendro cores. Yelan provides off-field DPS and damage boost for Alhaitham. While Baizhu is optimal for this team comp, Yao Yao and Kokomi are viable options. Xingqiu, Mona, and Candice can also be a viable replacement for Nilou. Alternatively, you can replace Alhaitham with Nahida as the main DPS. Another good variation for the Bloom team is using double Hydro and Dendro for your team, which leads us to the next team. Number 23. Yelan, Alhaitham, Nahida, and Kokomi. This team comp generates abundant Dendro cores, capitalizing on Nahida's Tri-Karma purification. Yelan and Kokomi serve as the Hydro stalwarts, consistently applying the element and delivering off-field damage support. Kokomi's role is crucial, as she provides healing and acts as a battery for Yelan. However, Baizhu or Yaoyu can substitute for her, albeit requiring a slightly higher energy recharge investment for Yelan. And while Alhaitham is the optimal main DPS for this team, someone like Keva can also work and can be pretty fun to play. Additionally, Nahida can apply plenty of Dendro elements for the whole party using her Tri-Karma purification. This opens the door for Hydro main DPS options such as Ayato or Mona, complemented by Anemo healers like Sayu or Jean, equipped with the Viridescent Veneer set for elemental resistance reduction. Number 24. Yelan, Alhaitham, Yamiko, and Kokomi. This team boasts exceptional damage potential, particularly if you prioritize high elemental mastery for Yamiko. Yelan and Kokomi ensure a continuous hydro presence, while Alhaitham adds dendro through his elemental skills infusion. Alternatively, Nahida is a viable main DPS option, offering seamless synergy without drawbacks. Kokomi is pretty important for this team's synergy, but Sayu can also work if you're willing to build Yelan with a higher ER stat. You can replace Yamiko with Fischl, Raiden Shogun, or Beidou as the sub-DPS. Number 25. Yelan, Ayato, Nahida, and Kuki Shinobu. Yelan, Ayato, and Nahida boast favorable ICDs, enabling abundant Dendro Core procs, while Shinobu triggers Hyperbloom within her elemental skill window. Ayato can be substituted with Child or Mona for main DPS, or you can opt for an Electro character like Sinnoh or Raiden Shogun. You can replace Nahida with the Dendro Traveler, Kali, or Kirara, but your Dendro application will not be as effective. Unfortunately, the only potential replacement for Shinobu in this setup is Dori, although she doesn't quite offer the same synergy. However, if you opt for an Electro DPS instead, you gain the flexibility to select Yao Yao or Baiju as your healer. Number 26. Yelan, Alhaitham, Tama, and Kokomi. This team has a pretty good synergy, creating Dendro cores and detonating them into Burgeon intuitively. Alhaitham will be your main DPS, but Nahida also works great for this role. Kokomi serves as a valuable energy generator for Yelan, but Bennett, Yao Yao, Baiju, or Zhongli can also complement this team effectively. For optimal performance, prioritize building Tama with significant elemental mastery to enhance Burgeon damage. Xiangling would also work great as Tama's replacement. And that's it for this video. If you're looking for a good build for Yelan or want to see more team comp videos, check out these videos next.